share with you a poem from a very special spiritual person for me. I find him very inspiring, and also I find that his words make a lot of sense. So I thought this evening I would share with you this. It's from a chap called John O'Donoghue, and it's a poem called May You Be Blessed. May you awaken to the mystery of being here and the quiet immensity of your own presence. May you have joy and peace in the temple of your senses. May you receive great encouragement when new frontiers beckon. May you respond to the call of your gift and find the courage to follow its path. May the flame of anger free you from all falsity. May the warmth of heart keep your presence aflame, and may anxiety never linger about you. May your outer dignity mirror an inner dignity of soul. May you take the time to celebrate the quiet miracles that seek no attention. May you be consoled in the secret symmetry of your soul. May you experience each day as a sacred gift woven around the heart of wonder. So I'm going to ask you, can you say that you have joy and peace in your senses? Would you consider yourself to be happy? Yesterday, I learned, apart from being my son's birthday, was also the International Day of Happiness. And it's something that was brought into being by the UN General Assembly, in that they feel that the pursuit of happiness is a fundamental human goal. I also read yesterday about some investment bankers on Wall Street. Despite the pandemic, these investment bankers are still pulling in, and on average, a 95-hour working week. Now, my arithmetic has never been my strongest point, but if I put that over a 5-day week, that's 19 hours a day these people are working. The survey that has assessed and documented and analysed a lot of reports from this one particular investment bank on Wall Street has requested that they ask no more than their employees to work an 80-hour week. Again, my arithmetic tells me that given over a 5-day working week, that's still 16 hours a day. They've also been told that their employees should work no later than 9 p.m. on a Friday and no working at weekends. In this survey, they included the young first-year investment bankers. They worked that 95-hour week. And they have reported that they sleep a maximum of 5 hours every night. They've all reported that their personal relationships, their mental, their physical health has all suffered. Comments included in that survey is that it was an inhumane working condition. It was abusive in its culture. There was bullying, incidences of shouting, insults, slurs. One of those young investment bankers even said, and I quote, "I have been through foster care. I've been through the foster care system, and working here is arguably worse." Now, all respondents to this survey reported a negative impact on their life and their relationships, be that friends, be that family, be that their partners. 77% of them reported workplace abuse. Before they embarked on their work placement, their dream work placement at this particular company, They rated their own mental health at 8.7 out of 10, and they rated their physical health at 9 out of 10. After 6 months, when they were assessed and analysed again, these young investment bankers reported that their mental health be at nearly 3 out of 10. And their physical health was just coming in at over 2 out of 10. For me, I find that shocking. In 6 months. And 83% of those young investment bankers experienced micromanagement. On average, they lasted just 6 months in those positions. And this investment bank on Wall Street is worth over £32 billion. So what's the motivation? Dream career, lucrative career, money, status, all in that pursuit of happiness. Is that their call to their gift, as John O'Donoghue says? What is the cost to their mental health? It's been documented, that mental health and their physical health. But what's not analysed or quantified is the cost to their emotional or spiritual well-being. Do they even have time to consider that, working a 95-hour week? For me, living a life of 95 hours working week, that wouldn't make me happy. And it wouldn't be answering the call of my gift. Actually, I would find working in those conditions oppressive, unnatural, and all-consuming. The law of money, the call of materialism, perhaps the idealistic dream of a lucrative lifestyle, maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's what calls them. Statistics, as I said, by 6 months, most of them have left. The promise of perhaps material riches, or perhaps it's not, they've discovered that it's not worth the sacrifice of their health, be that mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, or all of the above. But what's for sure is these young bankers certainly didn't find their happiness there. I worked for nearly a decade in palliative care. And during my time working in palliative care, I can honestly say it was a happy time. And during my experiences there, I can't recall of any dying person regretting the fact that they didn't have the latest iPhone, the Louis Vuitton handbag, or the latest Gucci overcoat. What I was witness to was many epiphanies, many breakthroughs in healing relationships, long overdue realizations about their own behavior, their attitudes to life, to people they should love. It was, for me, a very profound working environment. And taking in mind the investment bankers and those that work in palliative care, what I want to say, and perhaps remind us all, there's a saying somewhere out there about being the richest person in the world, and even the poorest person, the poorest of the poor, they all require the same size grave at the end of our life here. Happiness, by definition, and I read it to you, it says is the state of being happy. A further definition about happiness is that it's taken into context of our mental and emotional state. And it's used in the context of life satisfaction. Taking on that context, we can assume it is that we know is that my happiness is different to yours. What makes me happy won't necessarily make you happy. Because my emotional and mental even well-being is very different to yours. What makes me satisfied and content may not be your point of satisfaction or contentment. I have different needs and different stimulus to you. And what I have learned through this life is that no one thing, no one person can bring me happiness. Monetary needs can make us satisfied. That fabulous purchase that we've always wanted to make, the day at the theme park with whoever, just with wild abandon, or the night at the bar with friends, that can and often brings us happiness, but it's momentarily. For me, I know I would be exceptionally happy should my husband present me with an eternity ring. But that's not deep down core happiness. My happiness, our happiness, it ultimately comes from within. Happiness is our own, and happiness is our own choice. And happiness is a choice despite our circumstances. Perhaps there are those investment bankers out there pulling in those 95-hour weeks that are happy, content, feeling that they are answering their soul's gift. After all, we know we are all different, but I hope that they are satisfied with their life, mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. However, it has been documented that it is a culture of bullying, abuse, control. That for me is the micromanagement. And that gets me to think that there's a culture of projection, of dissatisfaction. Like I said, working in palliative care, I can't say that people were happy in the context that they were dying, or happy that their loved ones were in the process of dying. But there was surprising amounts of happiness to be found. And I won't even mention the dark humor that goes on within palliative care. But the happiness came from the connections of the people within that hospice. It came from the relationships, be that with their loved ones, be that with their nurses, the carers, the consultants. There was connection to be felt, to be seen, happiness in moments. There was always memory shared, and often those moments of happiness provoked a memory to come forward. There was the realization that of the futility of discords, disharmony, and disagreements, that there was those profound moments of happiness in the most simplest of moments. A bird feeding from a feeder that was always up at every single window in that hospice. Or when they looked out into the garden, and the hospice was designed that every bed could have a view into the garden. And every patient you would see would always make a comment about the flowers, about the people that they seen, enjoyed walking through that garden. There was pleasure, there was happiness, and it was from the simplest of moments. Often those moments of happiness came from a visit, and often from someone that they thought that they would never see again, but had taken the time to come and see them. Often thinking that there was a disconnect, but that person that was well had taken that time to reconnect before the physical life took its end here. And sometimes that communication happened, that connection happened through non-verbal, depending on the condition of the patient. Many of those people, I heard it so many times, felt that they were blessed. I've been so blessed in this life, Helen. And they were blessed. They would always tell me by their experiences, the people that shared their life, their work experiences. And they always came that those that had the material wealth were ones that found happiness in sharing it. As we've said, happiness is subjective, changeable. Happiness comes from within. And happiness is a permanent state of being, which is a choice for all of us. Our fifth principle, the personal responsibility, is the acceptance of a responsibility in every aspect of our lives. And it also takes on board personal responsibility in the way that we live our life. And we must accept in that personal responsibility that our life is our own and it depends solely on us as individuals. That's our personal responsibility. Our choices, our responsibility. And happiness, I believe, is part of our personal responsibility. In this pandemic, yes, I've said it, I'm going to bring it up. Restrictions and frustrations are everywhere. And we can choose to live by that. We can choose to be frustrated and we can choose to be restricted. Or we can choose that we find our happiness despite it. That we find a satisfying place within our day-to-day activity or within ourselves. Yes, our physical movements are restricted, and so too are social gatherings. And believe you me, there's no replacing human connection. There just isn't. The hugs, I'm a hugger. There's the hugs, the connection, the being in the same room, the talk, the buzz, the feeling, the synergy of us all being together. Some of us may even be missing going into the office. Hopefully not for 95 hours a week though. But this time in this pandemic is a time where we can perhaps reflect, analyze, think about the life that we were living pre-pandemic. Was that life you were living then, was that providing you happiness? Was that happiness from within coming out? Was your spirit happy? In taking an honest reflection, perhaps moments of quiet contemplation, this pandemic is offering us a prime opportunity to do just that. Contemplate, reevaluate, reflect, reset, redress, make choices. We can choose about who it is that we want in our life. We can take stock about who it is that is making the effort to keep in contact with us during this time of pandemic, isolation, restriction, frustration. We can choose and take stock about what it is that we value, what is important to us. Where does our happiness sit? And who and what affects it? We must perhaps address our values right now to halt the accepted norm of a rat race we've created. And that rat race demands material expectations on us and that superficial status that we chase. Let us bring it forward and come into a newfound freedom. A freedom to realize that despite what anyone says, whatever position they perceive to hold over us, we are absolutely free to think for ourselves. That we are free to choose our own happiness. That we are absolutely free to think for ourselves, choose our happiness, find joy in our life, come what may, despite what everybody else wants us to believe. Let us find happiness in the small things. Let us find happiness in the big things. Let us find our purpose, connect to that, and just be ourselves. Let us acknowledge that there is a choice to be happy, and that choice is in ourselves. In a moment, Spirit, as I was thinking about this address, there was something that came through, and I wrote it down, so I want to share it with you, because I was thinking about a choice to be happy, a choice in ourselves to be ourselves in every moment. And it came back because ultimately this moment, this present, is all we have. And that's where our power is. Our individual power and potential for our happiness will create its own pandemic. One of life satisfaction, immune to the virus of materialism and consumerism that fuels the fleeting and shallow happiness. Let us be the ones to create a new pandemic, one that is of a personal, happy life satisfaction that brings us all happiness in every moment we share. Thank you. Dear God, as we come to the end of our service this evening and we prepare to step back or go back to our earthly lives, we give thanks to those that came and joined us and participated in this evening's events. We know that they are but a thought away, and we understand that love, like life, never dies. And God, in remembering that your presence and power is accessible to each one of us, and that divine spark of you resides in each one of us, may that lead us to find our own happiness within, that place of self-satisfaction and contentment in the understanding that it is our personal responsibility to do so. In your name, amen.